Thanks for joining, everyone, and thanks for joining many of your fellow citizen leaders on this call tonight. Looking forward to speaking with everyone. We have an exciting agenda and some special guests as well, which we're going to introduce here in a little bit. So, as always, I know it's late for those of us on the East Coast, and we're going to try to keep the call to about 1 hour. Just so everyone knows, everyone is on mute right now, but if you press 1 on your keypad, I'll be notified that you have a question or a comment, and we'll do our best to call on you. So once again, if you have a question or comment, go ahead and hit 1 on your keypad, and I'll do my best to call on you throughout the call. So I'm going to pass the call over to Jeff Clements and our guest speakers here in just a few minutes, but if you've been on these calls before, you know I like to kick things off with a quote. This is one of my favorite quotes from Alex Steffen. Alex Steffen said, "Optimism is a political act. Those who benefit from the status quo are perfectly happy with a large population of people who think nothing is going to get any better. In fact, these days, cynicism is obedience. What's really radical is being willing to look right at the magnitude and difficulty of the problems we face and still insist that we can solve those problems." And as our good friend Sam Daly-Harris, who's also on the call, always said, if a quote's good enough to say once, it's good enough to repeat. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. Optimism is a political act. Those who benefit from the status quo are perfectly happy with a large population of people who think nothing is going to get any better. In fact, these days, cynicism is obedience. What's really radical is being willing to look right at the magnitude and difficulty of the problems we face and still insist that we can solve those problems. So I want to thank everyone on this call. This is the first step in looking at the magnitude of the problems that we face and still insisting that we can solve them. You know, we know as citizens, it's going to be up to us to reclaim our democracy, for human beings. It's not going to be up to the lawyers or the judges or the politicians. It's going to be all about the citizens. And the 28th Amendment is a critical piece in securing that political equality for all citizens. So we also know that amending the Constitution is an audacious undertaking. And our strategies really need to meet the audacity of our goals. And that's really what the National Citizen Uprising is all about. And it's been a crazy last couple of weeks. But, thankfully we've made it through the first month of 2017. And the movement to overturn Citizens United is making some huge strides, especially if you've been paying attention to the news. Last week alone, we saw significant actions made towards passing the 28th Amendment, actually on both sides of the aisle, which is fantastic. In Congress, Democratic Senators Udall and Bennett and Reps McGovern, Deutsch, and Raskin introduced bills to make this amendment a reality. The same week, former Republican Senator Alan Simpson released a letter in strong support of the 28th Amendment, following the 7th anniversary of the Citizens United v. FEC Supreme Court decision. And the National Citizen Uprising is growing faster and stronger as we get closer and closer to winning. So before I pass the call over to Jeff Clements, who's going to tell us a little bit about his travels and his democracy crusade, as I call it, that he's been on these past few weeks, I want to review a few ways that you can get involved in the Citizen Uprising. So number one, if you can, help organize a public event in your community. We'll be happy to send out a guest speaker to the event. And number two, if you're up for it, start a core team or an American Promise Association in the community, and I'll be happy to go into more details about what that means. In an email tomorrow, I'll be sending out a short form so that you can let us know how you want to get involved. And then use the Citizen Action Center online to send a letter to your elected official or your local newspaper. I can direct folks to that towards the end of the call if folks want as well. So we had some pretty tremendous action on that front last week. Last week, in one day alone, you guys sent a whopping 450 emails to members of Congress in literally in one day in support of the 28th Amendment. So that's fantastic. So I'm going to pass the call over to Jeff Clements to give an update on the coast-to-coast Citizen Uprising events he's participated in these past couple weeks. And then I'm going to introduce our special guest speakers. So Jeff, by the way, is calling in from the road in Florida. You'll have to tell us where in Florida, but with one of our super volunteers, Ray Claire Johnson, where they're just ending a National Citizen Uprising event now. So Jeff, what's going on in Florida, and tell us a little bit about your travels.
Hey, thanks, Ben. And thanks to everybody for being on the call. it's great to hear some of the folks who I saw out in Wyoming and Washington, and Brandon and Shelby and others who are on this. Real quick second, because we should hear from all of you. I just want to say Ray Claire and I are in the car with another super volunteer, Cora, here in Central Florida, heading to another city. We're going on a Citizen Uprising tour of Florida. We have 8 events all around the state. We just left over 100 people gathered to hear this call. People some have been in this work from other organizations or on their own, and others who are coming to it brand new, and we're really seeing a lot of good, strong energy that wants to direct that energy towards a successful 28th Amendment campaign. So it's really exciting. In Wyoming, I hope hear more about it, but coming right out of a round of meetings that Ken Chestek and others in Laramie pulled together, we've got a resolution introduced in the Wyoming legislature. It's getting cross-partisan support. Brandon is out there ready to get organized to help bring Republican Congressman Dave Reichert on board in the 8th District, where voters strongly voted for I-735, thanks to so much of the good work of people on this call and beyond. And we're going to do what we're going to do with the Uprising is when the voters get to have their say, as we're trying to do all over the country right now. We're going to take that expression of cross-partisan support that we always see with these ballot initiatives and this work and make it stick and turn into votes in Congress, in our state legislatures, across partisan lines. And basically we're going to have people get on board this great campaign or get out of the way. And that's what we're going to do between now and November 2018. And being, Wyoming, Washington State, California, Florida the last 2 weeks, and more to come, Massachusetts and Maine and others, I'm more confident and excited about this campaign than ever before. So I know we've got, people from Public Citizen and Wolfpack and Move to Amend and all sorts of organizations, Free Speech for People, others on this call, but we also have many people coming into this movement for the first time, and it's great to just give them a welcome, give them this work to do, and move this forward. So glad to be with you. And Ray Claire, you want to say hello from Florida, and then we'll sign off and turn it back to
Ray
Ben.
Claire, tell us what's happening down there in Florida.
They're wearing me out. Last night we didn't wrap up till midnight. It looks like it's going to be the same today, but it's been fruitful, and I hope the other states have the same kind of success. I think going out and having these sessions around the communities in all points of the state are really important to building support and getting the message out that people know that something major is going on and signing up and be involved with it. So that's all.
That's great. Awesome. Thanks, Ray Claire. I can't wait to hear the feedback from all these events. I can't believe you guys had 100 people at the last event. That's fantastic. So before we move on to some of our other guest speakers, there was a couple questions that folks had mentioned before the call had started, specifically for Jeff. So if you want to go ahead and press 1 on your keypad and let us know any questions or comments that you have on the Citizen Uprising or some of the events that Jeff has been to, go ahead and do that now, and I'll call on you. It looks like we have one right off the bat. Her name is Loring Cannon. Loring, where are you calling in from?
Okay, I've been active at Move to Amend for the last 4 years. I'm wondering if the amendment you're proposing matches the one that is put forward by Move to Amend.
Yeah, thanks. Ben, am I on to take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Hey, thanks for that question. As you're seeing more amendments get reintroduced in Congress, it's important to continue the work to build consensus around what these amendments should be doing. So what we at American Promise try to do is create the space to do those deliberations with all citizens around the country, judges, lawyers, most importantly, the citizens, to get the right amendment language. So we're not endorsing any specific amendment. Right now, you can go to our website, AmericanPromise.net, all one word, AmericanPromise.net. Go under the Goal tab, and you'll see the 28th. and we lay out some of the different amendments. We lay out the principles that we're trying to do together. We include the We the People amendment, strongly supported by Move to Amend. We include the Democracy for All amendment, strongly supported by Public Citizen and others. We are making a lot of progress, and that's why we have these strong amendments. So we're building a process over the next 12 to 18 months to invite all Americans in, to deliberate, to share information, and to build the consensus around the best amendment. And it may be ones that are in Congress today, or it may be ones that get reintroduced or introduced for the first time 12 to 18 months from now. And that is a really important process that we at American Promise are trying to facilitate. So we're not about one amendment or the other amendment. We're about the 28th Amendment, and we're confident we'll get the right one. And thanks for the question. It's good to see that We the People amendment and the work Move to Amend is doing. It's also good to see the work of Democracy for All amendment and other approaches. So, thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Jeff. Let's go to Doug and Susan. I believe you're calling in from Indiana.
That's correct. Hi, Jeff. Good to talk with you again. We were wondering what the difference is between American Promise and Free Speech for People.
Great. Another good question. So we started American Promise just 12 months ago. I was still the chair of the board of Free Speech for People and a co-founder there. Free Speech for People does great work, as do many of the organizations I've mentioned and many others I haven't mentioned. So what we were trying to do with American Promise is build infrastructure and support and connections among all of the different people doing this work, and maybe even more importantly, the millions of Americans who could be doing this work if we can invite them in and give them ways to do it and unite us, unite organizations, unite local organizations, unite people around this work. And so the real difference is, one thing I said already, we're not endorsing any specific amendments. We're going to try to build a process that invites everybody from all the groups in to participate in that process. If some folks were at our National Citizen Leadership Conference, we had the leaders and of all of the different groups doing this work, including Free Speech for People and others, at the conference. I think it was the first time in 7 years since Citizens United that all the different organizations were able to come together. And so, at Free Speech for People, we talked about on the board trying to do this kind of thing without creating a new organization, and realized, no, it's really better to create this space, this organization that can bring to this a place for all the different organizations to unite behind and to really be pushing. And this is so important right now when we look at how we go from where we are to where we need to be, the cross-partisan support in the local communities. So we're building out American Promise associations. We're building them out in conservative areas. We're building them out in progressive areas. We think we can carry this to every American community. And so when you look at the American Promise Advisory Council and things like that, that's all new kind of structure for this movement that can help unite Americans across the political spectrum. So that's really what American Promise is about. Free Speech for People does great work, and it's going on to all kinds of good work, including support for this amendment. But we really thought we needed and I say we, this is, my co-founder of this is a businessman, John Wass, who helped build out Staples and other work. We have Michelle Sutter in California, a great leader in this movement at the local and state level with Money Out, Voters In. So it's a lot of people trying to make this work, and we really don't care what other organizations people are in and supporting. We want to help serve this entire movement.
That's great. Thanks, Jeff. And I think we can let's do one more question before we move on to some of our guest speakers, and I'll introduce them. Let's go to Shelby Shadewell. Where are you calling in from, Shelby?
Hello. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, Shelby Shadwell in Laramie, Wyoming, and Jeff was just out here for an American Promise event where we got a great deal of folks to come out, and I don't know if Ken Chestek is also on this call from Laramie, but we've got some action in our legislative session this time, and it's HJ0010, and it's for free and fair elections. a resolution for our congressional delegation to call for a 28th Amendment on this issue. And I think Thursday morning we're going to be going to testify in committee about this in Cheyenne. So it's really been very exciting. And I think getting all these volunteers together, and this is kind of my first time being politically active. And so it's been very rewarding. So if anybody's on this call and isn't sure about whether they should get involved, it's a great thing. It makes you feel really great. So I'm also a organizer, state organizer. I'm with a different group, wolf-pack.com, and we are advocating for an Article 5 convention. 2 ways to amend the Constitution. Of course, Congress can, 2/3 of Congress can call, or 2/3 of the states can call. So I'm kind of a contingency plan if Congress isn't going to do this itself. And, with Congress the way it is, being already bought, it's kind of a stretch to say they would fix themselves. So we want to put extra pressure on them by also calling for an Article 5 convention, which is how we got the 17th Amendment, which was direct elections of senators. It put a lot of pressure on the national delegation to call for that particular amendment. So thanks again, Jeff, for coming out, and I think we're going to make some things happen here.
Hey, thank you, Shelby. It's great to see you out there, and look forward to continuing all this work together.
Yeah, Shelby, yeah. I love the enthusiasm. Thanks so much, and thanks for sharing. And that really did happen quickly. We had the American Promise event out in Laramie. Got the bill filed soon thereafter. Bill's going to have a vote here in the next couple of days, and we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that that's successful. And that's how these things go. Really, I think what Shelby's getting at is you just got to lean in and get into action, and we can do amazing things. And that's actually a really good segue into some other really exciting updates on the legislative side. We have some great guest speakers with us here tonight. First, we're going to go to Jonah Minkoff-Zern, a public citizen who has been a tireless champion for democracy issues for many, many years, who's going to talk about some really exciting progress in Nevada and New Hampshire. And then we're going to hear from Vicki Barnes in St. Paul, Minnesota, who is launching her own American Promise Association in St. Paul, and talk to us a little bit about how she's going about doing that and share some best practices with folks, because I know there's a lot of people on this call that are also interested in doing that. So we're going to hear from Jonah and Vicki, and I think Jonah's on here. So Jonah, go ahead and tell us what's happening in Nevada and New Hampshire.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Ben, and that's exciting to hear what's happening in Wyoming. So New Hampshire has been working over the last few years to become a state calling for a constitutional amendment, I guess the 19th state now in Washington, D.C., if it were to pass. So New Hampshire has a vote in committee, which could be as soon as tomorrow, though it could happen in the next few weeks. So it's kind of up in the air when the vote's going to take place. The committee's had a hearing, and it's a bill that calls for a constitutional amendment, and then has public hearings to discuss what the language of that constitutional amendment should be. And that was a little bit of a go-around because they don't really hear resolutions in New Hampshire, or aren't right now. So we have the public hearings tacked on to it to make it a bill instead of a resolution. So it came very close. A similar bill came very close to passing last year. In fact, it passed out of both houses, and then the leadership really didn't want it to pass. So something went down with the voting system, and there was kind of weirdness that happened. There was a motion to reconsider about a half hour after the bill passed out of the House, and the leadership pulled enough people's arms to change the vote enough that it didn't pass. It had narrowly passed, and they pulled it back, so it didn't pass last year. But it was a very close vote, and it's up again. We have some great allies there, some people who started as grassroots leaders, someone who was scared to make a speech when she started working on this, who now is actually a member of the House, who's helping to move the bill forward. So it really shows how people can get involved with this and become leaders and become elected officials and are now champions moving it forward. And then so that's New Hampshire, and I would encourage people, especially if you're in New Hampshire, to reach out to the Elections Law Committee that's hearing it this week or soon, if not this week. And I think from outside the state it's probably not as good, but to encourage people in New Hampshire to do that. And then the other resolution that's moving, we came very close a few years ago in Nevada for passing a resolution there, lost by one vote in the Senate. And folks there are moving it again, and I think there's a very good chance of getting it through the Senate and the Assembly there. So there's also a resolution calling for a constitutional amendment. They start their session next Monday, and I know we're working with you, Ben, and working with Plan Nevada there to move that forward. And I think there's a very good chance, as long as we stay on it and get some grassroots support, to get that passed.
Yeah, definitely. Where is that bill in Nevada right now, Jonah?
It was introduced by Senator Casanaro, and it's in the it's in the Senate. So it'll have the first hearing in the Senate and then move to the Assembly, assuming it passes out of the Senate. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Looking forward to working with you on this. And I think the theme of what we're seeing there, what's happening in Wyoming and New Hampshire, Nevada, and Florida, and all these different places is, the momentum for the 28th Amendment is really picking up steam, and it's really incredible to see all of these folks leaning in and joining this fight. I think that's what the National Citizen Uprising is all about, is this momentum, all of us together, nationwide in this national referendum for political equality. And I think that by November 2018, we will have seen many, many more states, joining with those other 18 that have already called for an amendment. So, Jonah, thanks for joining and filling us in on what's happening in New Hampshire, Nevada. If you want to hang out for a few minutes, we're going to open it up for questions in just a little bit. And anyone, I just want to.
Absolutely, but let me add one quick thing about New Hampshire that I think is important.
Yeah,
part of the effort there.
Please.
Is that people have passed 69 local resolutions calling for the state and Congress to act, and that's been an incredible grassroots effort and gained national media attention as part of it happening. So that's been the local resolution effort was really tremendous there, and there's a great ongoing list, the New Hampshire for Democracy list, where people are dialoguing and working together there on this and other democracy issues.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for that, Jonah. I actually had a great conversation with Olivia Zink today as well, and I'll be happy to provide anyone information on all the exciting things happening in New Hampshire. So we're going to open up for questions after we hear from Vicki. So, Jonah, if you want to hang out for a few minutes, and I just want to remind everyone that if you do have a question for anyone, whether it's me or Jeff or Jonah, or we're about to hear from Vicki, press 1 on your keypad, and we'll go ahead and make sure that we reach out to you so you can have ask your question. So let's turn it over to Vicki. Like I mentioned, Vicki Barnes is our great friend out in St. Paul, Minnesota, which I'm sure is quite balmy on this January 31st. And Vicki was at the National Citizen Leadership Conference that Jeff mentioned in D.C. this last September. We had met. She was inspired about what she was seeing there and the approach that American Promise is taking and the commitment to cross-partisanship, and her enthusiasm has really been, I think, an incredible organizing tool. She's put together a great group out in St. Paul. I'll actually be seeing you in about 15 days or so for the official launch of the American Promise Association, Vicki. But thanks for joining, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing, how you've been able to do this, why you're doing this, et cetera. So welcome to the call.
Oh, thanks, Ben. Well, on a snowy day in May, I became a grandmother for the first time, May of 2013, that is. And as we welcomed the baby into the world, I started thinking about what kind of world he was coming into, and I didn't like what I was seeing. So I did some research and found a project worth pursuing, which was the an amendment, and I joined Move to Amend in Wisconsin, and worked with George Penn and Katie Sherrill, and they educated and encouraged me and became part of the movement. I moved to St. Paul, Minnesota a year and a half ago, and joined Move to Amend here also, a wonderful group of people. But they started kind of working on issues in addition to the amendment, and I really just wanted to work on the amendment in a cross-partisan way. And I stepped back from then, and I took some time to research, and American Promise came up on my radar. And I went to the leadership conference and felt like I found a home. And it was a year that I was journeying to that home, so I really felt good about it.
With American
and when I left the conference, I realized that I've been trying to find somebody to speak for me, but I needed to speak for myself, and I needed to control the message. So that really motivated me to start an APA here in Minnesota, even though most of the people I know are in the Move to Amend people. But I have met other people, and I'm working with Move to Amend, and we're really excited about getting this launch going. I've got feelers out there, and I've made contact with groups that are local, statewide, online, and they're going to partner with me in publicizing things. I'm in League of Women Voters, and they have a position on this, and they will be helpful to me. We've got somebody in a representative and a senator that are going to be submitting their bills in about 10 days. And once it gets in there, it'll have to go to committee. And once it gets into committee, I have people lined up to be calling and emailing and writing letters. People from people in assisted living and in nursing homes. I've got people from League. I've got all kinds of people that are going to step up to get that out of committee so that we can get it to the floor. It's the second time it'll be introduced and going to the committee. So if we can get them to the floor this session, which ends in July, then we can still keep working on it over the rest of the year and then get it through next session. So I'm really optimistic. I tell you, this country really showed that they want a change. There's no question about it. But they might not know that this is the change that they're looking for. So we just need to get the word out there and let them see that this is doable and get it going. So like I said, I'm really optimistic about it. We found a great group of people. There's only, a small group, but we're pretty organized and pretty excited about it.
That's great, Vicki. Your story is very inspiring. I know a lot of folks on the call feel the same way. And Vicki, I wanted to just ask. I've had some questions come across the transom about starting an APA, and if you wouldn't mind sharing, because I know that there are interested people on the call that want to start a new American Promise Association, if there's any one or two pieces of advice that you have to get going, you'd be willing to share.
Well, anything that I do personally, I jump in with both feet. So I think if that's something that you are toying with or you're a little hesitant about, once you get that click inside you that tells you, okay, this is right for me, jump in with both feet and hit the ground running. And you don't need a whole lot of people to start out with, I think, but you need people who can find people. So getting a good core group of people together is probably the best way to do it. I mean, obviously, I'm working with Move to Amend, so they did a lot of work in Minnesota before I ever got here. So I'm lucky in that. The only way we'd be luckier is if we're in a ballot initiative state. That would be nice. But they have already laid the foundation for us. So I'm lucky in that regard. But I think, just make the commitment, jump in and do it. There's so much support out there through American Promise, through AP Connect, and a lot of groups popping up now in response to the election that you could probably piggyback with. They're just coming from a different direction to get where we're going. So I think that it's just good to keep an open mind, and everyone you meet and every place you go may provide, a possible source of assistance for you.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great, Vicki. Thanks so much. So I think we want to open it up for some questions now to either the guest speakers or Jeff or Ray Claire or myself. Again, I just want to mention if you're joining the call new, go ahead and hit 1 on your keypad right now. So I know that you have a question and I can call on you. So if you have any question about getting into action, starting an APA, what Vicki was talking about, some of these legislative resolutions that Jonah was talking about, or questions about the 28th Amendment in general, hit 1 on your keypad, and I'll go ahead and call on you. So let's start with Jim Redman. Jim, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling from Connecticut.
Hey, welcome.
And, yeah, thank you.
Okay, Jim, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm not sure if there's an American Promise branch in Connecticut, but Connecticut has what's called the Citizens Election Program, and it's the only publicly financed program, public financing program in the country, and it kind of counterbalances what Citizens United has done. But I am also a member of the League of Women Voters, and we have we have a 3-year effort now to try to preserve our public financing program because it's under assault, of course, by Republicans. And there's also a proposed House Joint Resolution in the state legislature to petition Congress to convene an Article 5 convention to overturn Citizens United, but our citizens election program kind of is a counterbalance or an answer or a way to counter what Citizens United has done to to corrupt elections.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Jim. I'd love to research and find out a little bit more what's happening in Connecticut. There currently is not an American Promise Association where you are, but would love to get one going. Jeff, you wanted to jump in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in on the thanks for that. And my mother lives in Stamford, so I know Connecticut, and that's great that the public funding system is trying to be defended there. Citizen-funded elections are a great idea. They have them in Maine and Arizona, too. In all those states, under tremendous pressure because of unlimited money and corporate money and other influences. I think there's Republican support for public funding. There certainly was in Maine. So I don't know that we have to assume Republicans are trying to kill it. I think money is trying to knock it out. And that's Citizens United. The Supreme Court, the Citizens United Supreme Court also struck down the law in Arizona about public funding of elections, essentially saying that violated the rights of the wealthy to drown people out. And so I think we need to think of the 28th Amendment as the absolute necessary foundation for good reform, whether it's citizen funding elections or gerrymandering or disclosure or any other necessary reform, and we do need those, need to rest on a strong constitutional foundation. So I think it's great that they're pushing the amendment and defending the citizen-funded elections in Connecticut. So thank you for your work there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jim. I'm going to call on some other folks here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't actually address some of the questions that people had posted beforehand. So this question came in from Lane Tripp. Hope you're still on the call, Lane. And Lane was asking, in light of the other protests and citizen actions we are involved in concerning the flood of outrageous orders and nominations and policies emanating from Trump and his administration, how are we addressing the issue of citizen fatigue, dilution, and just plain old finite time? Thanks, from Lane. I don't know who wants to take that on, but feel free to jump in, anyone.
Well, this is Vicki, Ben, and I actually had a conversation with somebody about that the other day, and I just feel like you choose what you need to work on. I mean, you have a passion, you need to choose on it, but you need to also work on this amendment. I mean, otherwise you're going to just be revisiting that same issue over and over again. It's not going to be resolved. So I basically say you have to multitask. I mean, you can't fix 7 things at one time. So you have to make a priority, but keep working on that amendment, because nothing will be permanently fixed until that's passed.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks for that, Vicki. I agree with you. Let's if no one else wanted to jump in there, let's go to Martha Burke. Martha, where are you calling in from?
calling in from Seattle area, Suquamish.
Welcome.
I didn't really have a question. I was hoping I could see the visual, but I can't seem to get that.
Oh, it's just a call this evening, Martha. But thanks for having us. Looks like you had hit one on the keypad, but perhaps by accident. So let's go to Carol Ballard. Carol, where are you calling in from?
Yes, hi. I'm calling from Albany, and I actually have worked for the last 3 or 4 years with Jonah, so it was nice to hear his voice. And
awesome.
New York, yeah, it was. We had 3 years of working with our divided legislature, and after 3 years, we convinced a majority to become the 17th state to ask Congress to pass a constitutional amendment. We did it, I should mention, not by ballot, because we don't have that in the state either, but we did it by a write-in letter, or a sign-on letter, I should say, that our senators and assembly people agreed to sign. Anyhow, what I wanted to ask you, Ben, is you had mentioned earlier in the conversation that what American Promise is dedicated to doing is building structure and uniting the various organizations that are working on this goal. Can you talk a little bit more about, what your plans are in terms of doing that? I mean, obviously you have this meeting tonight. It's the first one I've been on with other organizations, but explain a little bit more how you see that happening.
Sure, Carol. I'm sorry. Was that? Well, yeah. Thanks, Carol. Did you say was that question for me, Ben, or was that for Jeff?
Either one, really.
Okay.
I was thinking of you, but either one. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. So when we're talking about building out the infrastructure, so as we know that this issue is supported by 8 out of 10 Americans, as we've seen in polls and as we've seen in ballot initiative results, across 4 different states, and the support is there. And so what we do is try to build the infrastructure to harness that energy. And part of the way that we're doing that is through this National Citizen Uprising, Carol, which we've been talking about. And this National Citizen Uprising, how we imagine it is basically no matter where you live, there is an entry point for you to help out in the fight for a 28th Amendment, whether that's through statewide ballot initiatives, whether that's through legislative resolutions like Jonah was talking about in Nevada and New Hampshire and Vicki was talking about in Minnesota, or if your state has already done so, like New York, and as you mentioned being the 17th state, we're going to help get New York, quote-unquote, ready to ratify, as we call it, by helping to organize business councils and faith councils and passing many more resolutions in local towns and cities so that our elected officials can be held accountable to the will of the people. And the way that we're doing that is through building American Promise associations and starting up of these core teams that will have this kind of deeper structure of support that we're trying to build, that we can really train volunteers through role playings and trainings and all these different things and most up-to-date materials and connecting folks across state lines and county lines so they can share best practices. That's what I mean by providing this infrastructure. And we're really excited about the launch of many new APAs, as we call American Promise Associations, in this kind of model of this deeper structure of support, so everyone can become better spokespersons for the 28th Amendment. They can become certainly more competent and confident to call together a meeting with their local editorial board for the local newspaper, or a meeting with their state legislator or even member of Congress. And that's how we envision that we'll grow the grassroots support and the political power that we need to get this 28th Amendment voted out of Congress and back to the states for ratification. So I hope that answered some of your questions, what you were looking for. Jeff, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything there, but I hope that answered your questions, Carol.
That's helpful. I mean, you're right. You have to think further on down the line that, there will be the time when ratification is going to become what the challenge will be, and that's all very helpful. Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So thanks for your question, Carol. Let's go to Dudley Hafner. Dudley, where are you calling in from?
Ben, I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and
hey, Dudley. Yeah, I knew I recognized the name. How you doing?
A couple of things I just noticed that both our senators in New Mexico are supporting the overturn of Citizens United, which is a good start. Excuse me. One other thing, and I think this would need to go through you, and I don't know if I sent it to you, but Ben and Jerry has agreed to contact all the people on their mailing list in particular states if there's something specific that the leadership in that state is wanting people to do, like contacting somebody about specific meetings or contacting their senator or leaning on their local state group. And it had to be specific, and I sent that contact to you so you could make the call when any one of our state leaders says we really need some more help on this. Do you follow me?
I do. Thanks, Dudley, and I did get your email, and I appreciate you sending it, and I look forward to seeing you in about a month or so out in Santa Fe. That's going to be a great meeting. So, Ben
first, whatever it is. Now, my question is is updates. Like how many, you said 69 local resolutions, how many states have already taken that step? How many senators, U.S. senators have done that? And I'm not asking for that update now. I'm just asking if you could circulate an update that give us the status of where we are as best we can tell now.
Yeah, I'd love
to.
There's actually... Yeah, I'd love to. There's actually a great website called unitedforthepeople.org, and in my follow-up email tomorrow, I'll be sure to include the link for that has a list of all the local resolutions that have passed, all the states that have passed those resolutions, and actually you can find text of the bills and sample resolutions within that website too. So, Dudley, I'll go ahead and send that around in the email tomorrow. Great question, though. I think we got a couple more, and then we're going to talk about some next steps and good action steps coming out of the call. But let's go to Tony Stepnick. Tony, where are you calling in from?
Hi, this is Tony, and I'm calling from Washington State. And I had a question for Jonah. The efforts in Nevada and New Hampshire, I believe, and possibly for Vicki as well in Minnesota, are you looking at the corporate personhood language in your introductions for the 28th Amendment?
Jonah, you want to take that one?
Sure. I mean, for New Hampshire, the language is broad and then calls for a study committee, for public hearings to talk about what language the amendment should have. So it's broadly saying that an amendment is necessary, and then calling for public hearings to discuss what language it should include. Nevada, I actually am not sure what language they settled on, and I think it's still a little bit in flux. So I actually don't. I don't recall what language she ended up submitting. It was a very last-minute kind of back and forth in the middle of the night to make sure that they submitted language on the last day that it was due before the legislature. So I'm not sure where they ended up with it.
Okay, and let me just give a super quick shout-out to the gal in Albany from Washington State. About halfway through our campaign when we got done with all the signature gathering, and we were ready to rework our brochures and do the second half of the campaign, New York passed, and so we went from being the 17th to the 18th, and it was a tremendous boost to all of our core volunteers. Thank you so much.
That's great. Great shout out, Tony. I remember that. That was wonderful, and thanks for your question as well, Tony. So let's go ahead and do one more. Let's go to Deborah. Sorry, no last name, but Deborah, where are you calling in from?
I think that's me, Santa Fe, and I just wanted to address the issue of getting too spread out and picking, your issue. And I wanted to say that there's a group of us getting together in Santa Fe to share, and we sort of are picking our major issue. So I agree with Vicki. It's somewhat an issue of multitasking, but also picking your major issue and sticking with it. So you have that issue, but then you support everyone else in your group with their issue. They all drill down into their own issue, And if there's any way to help support with either funding, letters, urgent, emergent kind of communications, then we communicate with each other and then get together to do that. And I think the most important thing is still picking your one issue, and then you kind of have your more, quote, minor issues, and working together as a group to keep each other informed about what they can do.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great, Deborah. I appreciate the advice. That's solid, and I hope to see you when I'm out in Santa Fe that first week of April. I'm really excited about that. So let's move on. Great questions, everyone. If we still have a few minutes left at the end of the call, we'll come back to some folks that still have their hands up. But wanted to talk about some next steps. There's some exciting things happening, and I want to make sure that you guys have your markers out and marking your calendars. So, and again, thanks to the guest speakers that we had on, Vicki and Jonah. Love having you guys on, and again, for folks on the call interested in doing, what Vicki's up to in launching a new American Promise Association or help supporting what Jonah was talking about in Nevada and New Hampshire, feel free to reach out to me to get involved. But one thing that I want to draw to everyone's attention is next month we'll start our series of Citizen Uprising core team calls. It will be a little bit different format than these last couple of calls have been, and they're going to take place on the second and fourth Thursday of every month. So please mark your calendars. Typically the calls are going to include a guest speaker, a Q&A period. There's going to be sharing of grassroots victories and local campaigns. There's going to be a discussion of the month's action and very importantly, training on becoming better spokespersons for a 28th Amendment. And then we're going to do virtual breakout rooms within the call based on what state we're in. So we'll be able to connect folks in the same states, whether it's a ballot state or a legislative state or a resolution state resolution state. We're going to be able to break folks out right here on the call and have these virtual breakout sessions with experts in those areas, so we can kind of plan and ask questions and become better versed within the subject matter. So again, we're going to launch the first Citizen Uprising core team call Thursday, but Thursday, February 9th at 8:30 p.m., 5:30 Pacific, with something pretty special and unique. So what's going to happen on that first call is our great friend and coach Sam Daly Harris, who's been coaching American Promise, who founded the anti-poverty lobby Results, and coached Citizens Climate Lobby. I'm sure many folks on this call are familiar with Citizens Climate Lobby. Sam coached them in their first 7 years, and Sam's going to teach us our laser talk on the 28th Amendment. A laser talk is almost like an elevator pitch to help us help us become better spokespersons. And then we're going to lead a brief training on writing letters to the editor. If anyone has tried this before, we know that it can be complicated and somewhat difficult to navigate. Sam's the master at this, so he did a similar training for those calling in from California, if you remember this, on the Prop 59 campaign last October, and folks on the call really loved it. It'll be inspiring, energetic, and certainly informative. So if you can come to the call with your local newspaper or ready to go online as well with the training, we'll actually write and send your own letter to the editor. So this won't just be a simulation. This will actually be doing an action. And our training action for February and March will be having our letter to the editor published. And then we can move on to other training and action items after that. So like I said, we might have a few minutes left at the end of the call. Just want to review some next steps. Number one, help organize a public event in your community. Like we said, these have been very helpful in getting the 28th Amendment moving in a particular state. Jeff was just out in Wyoming. We had some really committed citizens introducing legislation in the State House, and the next thing you know, we think we have a bill for it or a vote on this bill coming up this Thursday. So these events are great to get the citizen uprising work for the 28th Amendment moving in your particular state. So please fill out that form that I'll be sending tomorrow to let us know if that's something you're interested in. The other thing is to start a new core team or American Promise Association in your community. Again, there will be a box on that form that will ask you to check if that's something that you're interested in, similar to what Vicki was doing. Let us know if you want help sending a letter to your elected official or local newspaper. Again, we're going to be doing a training on that next February. I'm sorry, not February 9th at 8:30 p.m. So have a local newspaper handy. And then along with the short form I'm going to be sending you, you can let us know how you want to get involved, but I'll be sending some other resources similar to that one that we mentioned before on the unitedforthepeople.org. And if you have any ideas on other resources that you'd like to see, please send me an email at beng@americanpromise.net. Once again, it's beng@americanpromise.net. So please go ahead and send any other thing that you'd like to see, send out to the group, and everyone on this call will receive an email, and I'll go ahead and do that. So it looks like we do have just a couple minutes left on the phone here. We do want to try to keep it to an hour to be respectful of everyone's time. There are a number of questions that came in before the conference call, again, that I would be remiss that if we didn't get to. So if we can, we'll just take a couple of these, and then hopefully can get to some folks with their hands up as well. But let's talk about an overview. Kathy LeQuise said, "I'd love an overview of where we stand with states across the country and which ones are priority for next steps." I've been talking quite a bit, but Jeff, I'm not sure if you want to take that one on.
Hey, Ben, sure. We've been, as I said, driving out of this event. My battery's dying, so you might have to take over. But
no problem.
Priority, where we are, of course, we have 18 states, thanks to so much good work by lots of people. We want to ramp that up a lot. So we're looking at every state that has a ballot initiative and beginning to rank priorities. But in a lot of ways, it depends on you and people in those states. So we're finding some good interest in Florida, which is, of course, a big lift. A lot of signatures needed, but we're looking at that with Ray Clare and many others. And down here in Florida, we're looking at Massachusetts to ramp it up there. Maine, Ohio, Wyoming. If the legislature doesn't do it, there's a ballot initiative option there. So we don't rank states sort of from the top down. We look to where the energy is, where people want to do it, and then go all in to try to help them as much as we can to do it. So the impetus and the ranking really comes from below, and then some from the grassroots, and then in some instances because of deadlines where we have to make decisions. But the other thing is we should all feel confident that there's no such thing as a state that is off limits for any reason. Whether it's a so-called red or blue, that doesn't matter. Whether it's a big challenge or not, the folks in Washington State proved that we, grassroots citizens, can do this. They got 300,000 signatures, almost completely grassroots, no paid signature gatherers. So we think we can do this everywhere, and the focus will really depend on where the energy comes up. So let us know what looks good, but we know we're off and running, and we'll see a bunch of states moving into the Uprising columns.
That's great. Thanks, Jeff. We're going to go to one more that was submitted before the call. This came from Charlie Cooper. Charlie, I hope you're still on the call. Charlie's asking, what is happening with Rep. Nolan's Minnesota resolution? This might be for Vicki Barnes. It has a much clearer statement on reserving constitutional rights to natural persons. Vicki, any idea what this is about in Minnesota?
No, but remember, I'm new to the state, but I know that the resolution request that is being submitted is that only living beings are people. So, but I'm not familiar with that representative, but I'll look into it and let you know.
Yeah, that would be great.
And I could just add to that, Ben, that Representative Nolan introduced the We the People amendment, I believe. And so, Move to Amend has a lot of information about this amendment. It was introduced last time, so maybe that's where the question is headed. I suspect, yeah. Go ahead,
Did you say
Vicki.
Nolan? Okay, I misunderstood the last name. Yeah, it's Representative Nolan. Yes, he and he's the senator, and then Congressman or Representative Dean. They're both going to be submitting within about 10 days each of the companion bills to the state.
Great. All right, thank you for that. So I want to be mindful of everyone's time. If you weren't able to ask your question, please feel free to email it to me. I'll get back to you right away, beng@americanpromise.net. be looking for my email tomorrow with the participation form. I hope that you're willing to host an event or start a core team or American Promise Association in your community, in your state, to support this national citizen uprising for a 28th Amendment. Lots of exciting action happening all over the country. So we hope that you'll join this exciting action. And before we sign off, as tradition, sign off with a quote. And this one is an anonymous quote, but one of my favorites. And the quote goes, "Be outrageous. It's the only place that isn't crowded." I'll repeat that. Be outrageous. It's the only place that isn't crowded. So good night, all. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for being outrageous. Let's go to work and look forward to speaking with everyone soon. Good night.
Thanks, Ben.